Welcome to another stunning, spectacular software showcase. And with me today, Mark Stedman.
Hey, Glenn.
And I am Glenn Oliver, as you're already familiar with. And today we want to talk to you about BibleTranslationTools.org, the website. But before we begin, let's just remind ourselves about some of the things that are key for this webinar. We are live, and if you aren't able to join us live, you can always join us after the event by hitting the same link that you saw in your invite. And also, there's the opportunity to ask questions during the event. There is a Q&A channel, and we invite you to put your questions there. It is going to be moderated, and we will provide time at the end to answer some of those questions. Or if it's relevant to the moment, we may interrupt what we're talking about and expand on the question at the time. But first, why don't we open our session today in prayer? And Mark, would you open us up today?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. Thanks. Father, thanks for this day, this afternoon, the opportunity to gather with people all over the world to talk about software technology and how it's being used to advance Bible translation. Lord, you've put us in a strange and even unprecedented season, and we thank you that the ministry of Wycliffe Associates in Bible translation has continued to be effective even in this time of change. We are excited about the opportunities to adjust our tactics to meet this new reality and to even better support our friends and partners overseas who are doing Bible translation. So join with us today, Lord, and we look forward to this time together. Pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. And unlike some of our previous presentations where we did most of the driving, this is a website, and so we invite you to also go to the website if you wish to explore it on your own. There's BibleTranslationTools.org. But if you'd like, at first, we'll kind of walk you through some of the key features. Mark, why did we create BibleTranslationTools.org?
You know, that's a great question, Glenn. And I think actually before we get to that, I'd actually like to talk about why we are doing these software showcases. This is actually the first time that we've been able to get together in the same room, which is of course new. Previously, we've all been working remotely or from home or different things. And so we haven't been able to have this kind of dialogue and kind of talking back and forth. But of course, we started this at the beginning of the crazy lockdown time when we couldn't travel. And you know, we already had on our roadmap for this year to start doing this kind of show and tell on some of the tools that we're producing and ways that people can get engaged and share with their friends about Bible translation and the tools that they can use. And so that's just kind of some background about why we're doing these things. And I think it would be fun to talk about maybe what's coming as well. So, hey, are we going to keep doing these things, or is this the last one?
Well, actually, yes, we are going to continue doing so. And I liked to promote this one today because it's also going to be a roadmap for future sessions. That's all going to hinge on this being one of the places where you can find the software that we're talking about.
Great point. So Glenn, you know, as you think about people who are attending this webinar or even watching it later, you know, what would you like them to walk away from today's session understanding about what we're going to show?
Well, in a similar way to Beal, where we often go to find our translations in progress or translations done and be able to either use it as a resource or enjoy it and promote it. So in a similar way, we want this ultimately to be a place where if you need some of our field service software, this is the one place that you need to go. It's a full service, one-stop shopping.
That's a great point. And yeah, I would hope similarly, I would hope that this gives you an opportunity to see what's available at BibleTranslationTools.org. and that you might share it both with the global church, but also within your own communities and circles. If folks are interested in knowing more about Wycliffe Associates and the work that we do, and they have any kind of technical interest, and they say to you, well, I understand you have software, how could I go take a look at that? This is where they can get all the software that we're working on, and they can also get in contact with us if they have questions. And we've even had some people come through the site, see things that we're working on, hear about our work, and then volunteer to even help with development. So that would be kind of my hope as well, is that people would feel empowered and equipped with a way to communicate more broadly about the work of Wycliffe Associates.
Excellent. At the moment, who do you envision is our current user of this website?
So, you know, that's a great question. And I think, you know, we built it sort of initially because we wanted to have a place to host all the tools so that people wouldn't have to come to us and say, well, where do I download BTT Writer from? Where do I download BTT Recorder, which we're going to show here in a few minutes. It gives a place for that. And those are usually internal stakeholders. There was usually WA staff and volunteers who would be asking those questions. But recognizing that we never want to be a constraint on the work of Bible translation, we are, of course, now translating the site into other languages. We have a localization plan. Pardon our dust, it's still in progress, but if you look on each of these sites, and we'll show you this as we kind of drive through the sites today, we do have a handful of translations started. Some of them are finished, and we are looking to do the rest of the world's major languages. And the hope would be that this will provide the ability for people to organically engage into Bible translation, even outside of the direct influence of Wycliffe Associates. You know, so much of 2020 for WA has been this adjustment to the new reality of, boy, we really can't get on site with people like we used to be able to, and we're not really sure when that's going to change. And so in light of that, you know, we've got a very broad multiplication strategy that looks to our current circle of partners and friends to multiply themselves on site and things like that. And we believe that God will bless that strategy, but we also acknowledge there are people that we just don't have a link to, even through friends of friends. We don't have a link to them yet. So we want to do everything we can to offer up all of the resources, whether it's Bible translation tools, whether it is existing gateway language translations that are copyright unencumbered and can be used as source languages. We want those things to be available to the global church with the hope that people will actually find the site either through Google or Bing or DuckDuckGo or whatever they're searching in their locality, and they'll be able to learn how to do Bible translation, have the tools they need to do it, and then to be successful in doing that within their church and faith communities.
Excellent. Well, let's talk a little bit about the homepage here. Obviously, this first screen that we see here does a very good job of communicating who this software is for, and all the fact that it is not only free in terms of cost to the end user, but it is actually open source, which is the case with all of the software that we develop, and we can talk a little bit more about that later. We're highlighting some on this page, some of the tools you can go directly to here. We've mentioned Writer, which you've actually seen in a previous showcase. So we're not going to go too deep into that. Recorder, some of you might be familiar with that from previous chapels, but we might have an opportunity to dive deep with that in the near future. Exchanger and USFM, which we'll touch a little bit more on today. Also, we have the resources, which Mark and Deborah talked about in our very first inaugural software showcase. And we also have this, don't miss an update.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second, but I just want to mention that Bible in Every Language and BibleTranslationTools.org are really sort of two sides of the same coin. You know, they're woven together in a way that you will sometimes click on a link and end up on the other site. So there's not a hard line between the two, but one is more tool focused and one is more translation focused. But there's definitely, they're meant to be part of the same ecosystem. And so that's why, you know, we've got cross links from both sites to the other one, because if somebody finds one, we want them to quickly find the full palette, the full menu of options that we have to offer to the global church. Yeah, so don't miss an update is exactly what it sounds like, which is a way for you to sign up if you want to be notified when we make updates to the tools. Every site that we're going to show you today has a little mailing list. We promise not to sell or rent your names or any of those normal things that we do. We won't let you unsubscribe. No, I'm kidding. We will let you unsubscribe if you want to, but you can just sign up for that. It's extremely low traffic. You may get 1 or 2 emails a year when we make a major release that will really impact and say, hey, you probably want to get the latest version of the software downloaded.
Excellent. And also, who's that handsome team you start seeing there?
You know, that great looking team is our Orlando-based information technology team. And of course, our information technology team isn't just the people in Orlando, but also encompasses Tech Advance. Mm-hmm. And a handful of those folks do live here in Orlando, but most of them do not. Most of them live either scattered throughout this country. And then we would include within that, like within our own thinking, we would include our friends at BTS and HTS into that same sort of family of people who are available to help support Bible translation around the world. Those people are not pictured in these photos because some of them just are concerned about travel and things like that. So they've all basically said, yeah, we don't really want to have our picture on a website that's too Bible translation-y, just because we don't want to run into problems entering into countries where they might care about that sort of thing. So that's why the primary people that are shown in that picture are the ones that work here in Orlando at the home office.
Our most egocentric.
I'd like to believe that's not why.
We have the contact form here as well, and that's not necessarily a product specific. this is an opportunity for, if you have any particular feedback or questions, that you can provide that to us. You'll notice that it goes to Tech Advancement Help Desk, and Tech Advancement is, we'll mention a number of times today, but they are our front lines. So much of our software that we develop here, they are the ones taking to the field, solving the problems and giving us the good feedback that helps us make the right tools for the job.
Yeah, for sure. They're such an important part of the team.
Down here, obviously additional resources very similar to the Wycliffe Associates website. Some key areas here. This also can be helpful in conversations that you might have with other people that are curious about what we're doing and why we're doing it. Specifically in this site, copyright and licensing is something you'll see that we talk about on our site that you may not necessarily find on the Wycliffe Associates site there.
Right, and actually all those additional resources are shared pages with the Bible in Every Language site, because it's all under the same guidelines and so forth.
So we're going to walk kind of in topic-wise across this area here, although I will admit that I have preloaded some of these here just to make sure it stays nice and quick for us. We've discussed the home page, and we've also kind of discussed the resources page. The resource page takes us to, the all too familiar Bible in Every Language, also known as BEAL. So we've already covered that previously, but as you can see, we link directly to it, and I believe some of the assets on their site link directly back to us when it comes to finding or getting further explanation of the software. Next up, we have Writer. Once again, Craig did a great in-depth discussion about this product just a couple weeks ago. But we can see here, this is the opportunity where people can download that particular application if you're curious. You'll see a number of different opportunities to do so. You can download the desktop version, or you can go directly to the Google Play Store. So if you have an Android enabled device, tablet or phone, you can be able to go directly there.
Let's camp on that just for a
Sure.
second, Glenn, because I think that's actually new since Craig's presentation
That
2
is
weeks ago.
correct.
Yeah, so if I were an end user who just wanted to get BTT Writer onto my tablet, why would I choose to go through the store instead of just downloading the APK?
Oh, that's great. The store allows us to do something rather unique. It allows you the opportunity to find out when you've got a version of the software that may not be up to date. If we've actually published a brand new version that maybe has new features or corrects some bugs that we found, this is a way to kind of keep tabs on that and know when you want to download that new one. Sometimes there's opportunities where it can actually do that in the background for you.
Is it easier to install if we get it from the Play Store as opposed to doing the APK?
I would say 100% yes.
That's what
the Google Play Store will, off the bat, inform you about certain features of the software, permissions that it requires, and enable you to kind of approve them right on the fly. If you're installing an APK, you have to install it like a piece of software. It may require you to go to security settings, do all these kind of hoops that, for some of us that are used to it, yeah, it's a couple extra minutes, but boy, I wish I could, if I have internet access and doing it through Google Play, it's 1, 2, 3, and I'm done.
You're ready to go. Yep, okay, good. Yeah, and that is actually really great news, and I don't want to scoop it, but I believe Recorder now is also available on the Play Store, which was also not true maybe the last time we talked about it. Is it hard to get stuff on the Google Play Store? It's too bad we don't have Dan here to answer that question. Shout out to Dan Paris in case he's watching. Is it hard
from my
to do that?
perspective, it's easy.
Yeah, I asked a guy to do it, and a few weeks later it was done. I'll just answer the question. It's non-trivial. It's a little complicated. So anyway, shout out to Dan. Thanks for getting that stuff posted up.
Whether you're, I think you have an Android device or an Apple device, if you're a developer, getting it on the store is a, like you said, non-trivial black box.
Yeah. It's a finish line that you're grateful to have crossed.
Yes, indeed. Anything more we want to cover about Writer before we move on?
No, I don't think so, other than just drawing the attention to the fact that there is a sign up on the Writer site. So each site has its own little, get the latest updates sign up. So if you want updates to everything, then you can just do it right on BibleTranslationTools.org, and you will get notified anytime something gets updated, any of the tools or any new tools that we launch. But if you're the kind of person who just, doesn't want to know about everything that's going on, you just want to know about the one piece of software that you care about, you just sign up for it on the individual sub-site for the tool that you're interested in. Then you only get emails about that specific tool.
Great. All right, so we made our way through that. The first one here, Writer. I'm going to actually skip ahead to Recorder if you don't mind.
Please.
And again, for some people, this may be a familiar topic from previous chapels that Mark and I have actually talked about here. This opening screen says a lot, but not all. We see a couple shots of tablets, Android tablets, showing the software in use. But if you read some of the fine print up there, you also learn that this very same software that you download can be used on Chromebooks, which now allows you to use a touch screen and a keyboard, which is convenient, but also it specifies Android devices. So quite as a happy byproduct, an unexpected almost, Recorder and its previous iteration, Translation Recorder, worked on phones. And nothing accentuated the point more than seeing it being used in the field by people just using their phones that they had in their pockets and running the software. Very gratifying. As we move down the page, this is also, I think, really great. If you're talking about some of the software that we're offering and is used in the field, this does a very good job of saying, hey, here's some of the screens and some of the things that you can see right here, how it's being used and what's going on, what's active when you are recording your voice and what to look for and how to check for quality, as well as when you get done with the recordings that you've made, how do you interact with it? How do you refine it? How do you edit it if necessary? And of course, the true power of the product doesn't necessarily come just from the recording device. A lot of software can record. We didn't need that. It comes in the management of being able to walk through scripture and record verse by verse correctly and uniformly, taking a lot of that heavy lifting and just leaving the end user to do what we need them to do, which is translate it into their mother tongue, into their heart language. Similarly here, we have a download opportunity, and we have this, unlike Writer, we only have the Google Play, which is the easiest way to download it for your target device, and we also have the APK. The reason why we offer both varieties of the software is obviously Google Play requires an internet connection, and specifically if you were to think about a room full of devices, everyone jumping on the same internet and trying to download it can be rather cumbersome. Whereas we found with an APK, you can very quickly share that between devices, and especially if you don't have internet, it's something you can bring on your thumb drive, on your laptop, whatever you need to do to disperse it, and we'll talk about that a little bit later as well. So it does require a couple extra steps, usually involving the settings on the target device, but it's another powerful way of distributing it. We do not have it available for iOS.
You know, that's why I haven't started translating the Bible orally yet in my own mother tongue.
Down below, that lower banner is a little bit different. So we do see some of the additional resources that I pointed out on the homepage in the About Us, but we have related tools. And this is an area where we will continue to expand and refine. But in working with some of the output of Translation Recorder and BTT Recorder, there's a lot of files, and we provide tools for the facilitators to be able to manage and make mass edits to things and being able to make conversions, things that the typical user doesn't need, but is a great help to facilitators and our tech advanced people. And in fact, many of these were created because they came to us and said, you know what would be helpful?
Yeah.
You know what would save me a lot of time?
Yeah, related tool exists because somebody had a big problem. That's how those get made usually.
Yeah. So jumping back here, the next one that I want to talk about is Exchanger.
Before you dive into Exchanger, sure. I thought maybe we would just check in with our producer and see if there was any QAs at this point for the first two. Okay, sounds good. Remember,
we're doing a great job.
We either explaining everything or people are not that interested. But we'll plow ahead. Just remember, if you're watching the show, please feel free to put your QAs up now, and we will circle back to them as we go as they come in. So don't hesitate to put those in.
And I feel like we're talking really fast too. So if slow down is something you want us to do, then that's also good.
That would be fine. Yeah.
I briefly wanted to talk about Exchanger. This is a project that we piloted with some of our partners in the field as well as Tech Advance. And essentially, if you can imagine, a bunch of Android devices running Recorder, the ability to exchange files between them is not necessarily natural or easy to do. But we've mitigated that problem by offering, with a simple device here, this is just a mini PC, that when present at an event and launching our translation exchange software, can allow all the tablets to freely exchange their recordings. And it can be interfaced with any device that essentially has a browser. We have a bunch of clients that allows all of those devices to communicate. Some of the things it allows us to do is, as you see here, we can run it offline. So if I have this device in a room and we have a bunch of tablets that showed up and maybe they're brand new out of the box or they're something that the team has been using for a while, they can all get their latest updates from this box. It'll broadcast, it creates its own little internet for that event, for that room. Not the real internet, but just locally, so that all the tablets can talk to each other. It downloads all the software from there, and they can upload their takes to here. Very handy for that. It also has a feature that we're experimenting as well to allow people to check each other's work. So if I'm working on a book of the Bible and I said, hey, I got chapter 1 done, boom, send it up there. Hey, Mark, would you mind checking that and give me some feedback? And we also allow the communication through the device, not through written word or necessarily us having to meet together, but we can make recordings right on the take and kind of keep track of the progress and notes right out of there. But we'll talk about that more in a different showcase that we can show that off.
Let's take just a second. We've got a question, but I actually want to ask my own question first since I'm in the room. So I want to hone in on something you said in case anybody missed it. You don't need internet if you're at an event that's doing oral Bible translation with Recorder. So if you're using BTT Recorder and you've got all these recordings going on, you don't need internet to back that stuff up or to transfer those files to your friends, right? Is that what I heard you say?
That is absolutely correct.
If you have this, it puts up its own Wi-Fi, and then all the TR clients or BTT Recorder clients in the room can talk to this, exchange files, get backed up, and then collaboratively check each other's work, right?
That sounds awesome.
This is like some kind of dark magic. I just like to point out that this is amazing. No, I just wanted to make sure that that was really clear, because if somebody's maybe a little bit less technical, they may hear things like networks and all that, and they're thinking automatically, oh, you got to have the internets for that. You don't have to have the internet. Where this is actually a direct addressing of the fact that in so many places, internet is either non-existent or very, very limited. So the idea that I'm going to send audio files, which are of course massive compared to text files, it's very, very challenging. And so that's exactly why this exists. So
Can't wait to go deeper another time.
Yeah, thanks for letting me dive in on that. Yeah. I think Craig's got a question for us. Craig is our off-camera moderator.
Hi, everybody. We do have a question on the device in particular. The question is, how does the device hold up from shock? Like, for example, if you drop it on the floor.
We have done that, not intentionally. It's pretty good. This particular device has a solid state drive, so it doesn't suffer from the fact of little hitting the platter and causing a problem there. So yeah, they're pretty robust. We took them, I would say, halfway across the world? Yes, backpacks and suitcases, and I was the least concerned about those than I was my own laptop.
Yeah, you take the antennas off because they probably break off or whatever. But yeah, like you said, they've got the solid state drive, yep. And that really helps a lot with that. Do they have onboard power, or does it have a power brick?
Oh, again, we're stealing from a future session, but yeah, so we've even had scenarios, in fact, when we first took it on the road, we ran it entirely from battery power. And so they were able to last the entire day. Yeah. On the batteries that we provided, and yeah. We're continually looking for better solutions and better options to even extend that.
I think this is really important. So I just want to highlight again what you just said, which is this can be run off of a battery, not even like a UPS, but like a 12-volt, 19.2.
Same kind of battery that you essentially use for your phone.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, some kind of a portable battery. You would charge it wherever you are that you had power, but at your event site, if you've got a full bag of charged up tablets, those should run eight hours probably or something like that for like a modern Android tablet, right? Basically gonna run all day. This can run all day. So you not only need internets, You actually don't even necessarily need on-site power that's reliable, right? So you really can go almost anywhere, and if you have a group of believers who are interested in doing oral Bible translation, they are set to go.
Yeah.
All you need is like chairs maybe, but you don't even have to have that, I guess. Final question, do I have to run it on this, or can I run it on something else? Like if I had a laptop, let's say, could I just run it on a laptop? Or do I have to buy this exact box, or like can I buy any kind of like a small box?
So I wouldn't recommend it running on a laptop, but yes, you could. We
Okay.
have, and I've done that initially as we were prototyping before we had that wonderful box.
Right.
But that is just so convenient, and we've demonstrated that with our tech team and others, that you can set that thing up in about 30 minutes. First time use, and then you're good to go from there. I forgot your other part of the question.
Can I run it on any kind of a mini PC, or does it have to be just this model?
Right. No, it's we're not advocating one particular type of box. What we do have is basically specs out there for Tech Advance saying, hey, if you find a box out there that meets these particular minimum requirements, it should work. We've tried, I think, about 3 or 4 just different configurations of taking different parts and putting them together, and every time it's worked out really great.
Yeah.
In fact, we started out working on Raspberry Pi. I don't know if anyone cares about that, but
We did. It's really
wouldn't recommend that right now.
yeah. The Raspberry Pi doesn't have quite enough grunt, but yes. Cool.
Yeah, you mentioned Dan. He's in the chat, and he said 2 features about that box in particular. It has no moving parts whatsoever, so it can
No
last.
cooling fans or anything.
Correct, and it takes a standard 12-volt supply.
Nice. So 12 volts means it's just any like a car battery or like a rechargeable, like a deep cycle marine or whatever. That's awesome. Okay. Nice. Thanks, Dan.
And the batteries we've tested with on the field aren't even half as
Right.
big as that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
One other thing I did skip over from before, and I think I'll just go back to Recorder if you would indulge me.
Yeah.
Is that this is also a place not only that you can get the software, but you can get help. So notice at the top here, this is a website dedicated towards VTT Recorder, and you'll see that it actually has a help here. And that even splits into the idea of, okay, if you're coming here, maybe we can help you with what you're looking for. Is it something that you're having to do with recording or editing? Are you creating a new project? All kinds of appendices, which include online searchable documentation, as well as graphics and PowerPoints, all kinds of things to support you either teaching or using the documentation for that as well. And that will be coming for Exchanger. I'm sorry.
Don't leave. I have a question on that page.
All righty. I've already left, but I'll come back. Yes.
One I wanted to point out there is that there's kind of a buried tab. It's a little hidden. It says English source audio. So right now, if you want to get English source audio to base a translation on, this is your place to get it. That's the easiest place to get it. We probably need to do a better job of highlighting exactly where to get it, but it is available there. While you're on this page, would you mind just seeing if it's translated into any other languages? Slide to the top, drop the English language menu. Let's see if French or any of those other ones work.
Interesting.
Okay. Let's see what happens. It may take a second because it probably hasn't been read today. Okay. I'm gonna just note to whoever's watching, if you're a native Spanish speaker, please criticize our translation because we did end up doing auto translation for it. We did not actually find a translator to help us with it quite yet, but I'm glad there's something there. At least it can get maybe somebody going in the direction that they want to go.
Excellent.
Cool.
All right. And I think the last subpage we wanted to talk about here was the USFM files. Mark, what is USFM files and why do we care about them?
Yeah, it's like United States Foreign Military or something like that. I'm not sure. What does USFM stand for?
Me.
Yeah, it's so funny. We always get this wrong. It's the Unified Standard Format Markers. You always want to put scripture in there, but it's not. It's the Unified Standard Format Markers or something like that. Thanks to linguists who came before us who created this. We'll just say that. We didn't make it up. We inherited it. But it is, of course, the way that you mark up text to format it for scripture. So in the USFM standard, you have things like a tag that marks this is the start of a verse, this is the start of a chapter, this is the start of a book, this is a footnote, this is what else is in there, Craig? I'll ask our offsite producer here.
Oh, all kinds of stuff. ID markers, headers, footers.
Yeah. So it's a bunch of stuff that,
Poetry, footnotes.
the final reader doesn't see, but when you're translating scripture, the software is actually putting all of those things in there, just like Microsoft Word puts in paragraph returns and things like that for you. So this tool is designed to take USFM files, which are the outputs from various Bible translation tools, such as, for instance, BTT Writer or Autographa, as crafted by our friends over at BCS in India, and many, many other pieces of software. Take that and turn it into something that an end user would actually want to read.
Good. Now, that's part of the process, as I understand, of when we have people submitting their what we call repos or their work from the field, and it's somehow getting translated ultimately into Bible in every language. But here we see something to download for Windows. Who would be the user of this, and why would they want to use it?
Well, that's a great question. The reason you'd want to download it for Windows and install it on your computer is if you were, let's say, at a translation event, or you were, living in a world where you didn't have constant internet connection, but you were working with some translators, and you wanted to be able to quickly format their USFM documents for, let's say, to print out so people in the room can check them, or to hand out and share around your church community so that you all can, respond to them, and whether it's using them for a Bible study or whether it's taking a look at them together so you can kind of do the community checking kinds of stuff. This lets you, of course, do all that conversion right on your computer without internet access. So if you're in a room with a bunch of people who've got either USFM files, like say on a memory stick, or if you had copies of translation, BTT Writer, or any of the other translation tools, you'd be able to take all those files and then turn them into something that will be more useful for you to actually read. Excellent.
And of course, it made you do this blind, but yes, here's how it works in case you forget everything that was talked about here in terms of what this software will do for you and hopefully what you want. It says upcoming. Do anything we want to preview upcoming?
Well, it's interesting. You might think to yourself, that's kind of a limited scope thing. Like, who would really care about that? Well, we actually wrote it because we needed this utility to drive our publishing pipeline. So a few weeks ago, we demoed the ability to download scripture from Beal, and that actually uses this in the background. So this is a component of that scripture publishing pipeline. So it's sort of a freebie that we also have it available as a download that you can install onto your local machine, and we use it on the server. So I think we may have another question from the field.
Yeah, we have a couple. The first one is from Jeremias. He says, I'm from Mozambique. Our official language is Portuguese. He says, we're thinking of having Portuguese as an operating language. Can you use the Bible translation tools in Portuguese?
Well, that's actually a really good question. So the first question is, which Bible translation tool? We are the first to admit we have not done a good job of localizing all of the individual tools. So for instance, at the moment, USFM Converter, I believe the interface is only in English. We would like that to change, but we don't actually have people on our team here in Orlando who helped build that, who speak those languages. So if you would be interested in helping us localize that, we might be able to help you with that. Other tools, such as BTT Recorder, it's created with a minimal language interface, but it is also not able to be localized because it was the way it was architected from the start. It wasn't created to be able to be localized into other languages. However, the good news is we have a new tool coming out that's going to eventually do everything that Recorder does and more, and that tool is called Orature. That one has been architected. We learned our lesson. That one's been architected from day one to be able to be localized into any language, and it's relatively easy to do that, I understand. The other primary tool that would probably be affected would be Writer. And last I heard, Writer is localizable if you have people who are mother tongue speakers. I'm getting nods from the producer, who are willing to go through and basically translate all of the language that's within the user interface, to translate all those strings, and then there's a facility to load those back in, and then you can have Writer in language of your choice.
Well, Mark, I've got some good news for you. BTT Recorder can also be localized. Thanks to Max and others in their effort. We are able to offer out the text to be translated and then make a new build. And every time we get new offerings of translations, it keeps knowing more languages. And all that's required to activate that is if the operating system is in a language that the BTT recorder has a translation for, happens automatically.
Switches. Nice, nice. Okay, so that's news, or maybe you told me and I forgot. I'm super excited to hear that. Thank you for updating on that. I think we have another question from the audience.
So another person asks, does the USFM converter work on only English files, or can it work for other languages as well?
Well, that is a great question. It works for pretty much every language. I believe at the moment, right to left support is an issue.
Right.
We are aware of that issue. Obviously, that's a huge blind side. Right to left languages are a big deal. We care about that. We're going to hopefully have that resolved here in the next few months. There are likely some corner cases where it may not render properly for certain languages, though often what we find is there's a problem in the underlying USFM file, and it's not necessarily an issue of the language or the script. So, you know, it works 60% of the time, it works 80% of the time. So it's pretty good. It's pretty good, but nothing is perfect. And again, often there will be some issue in the USFM file that will throw an error in the parser. And we are actually actively working to improve those cases where there's a problem and to deal with those gracefully instead of just getting a complete fail.
We have one more question at the moment. A person is interested in the mini PC. They're asking, can we order the mini PC through Asset Request?
I believe the answer is yes. Yeah, so I'm not sure who's asking the question. I hope it's not somebody in Tech Advance. But yeah, if you're setting up an event and you would like to have Exchanger at your event, put it in your asset request. The folks in Tech Advance who work with that stuff know how to do that. We will make sure that they are prepped to do it. TE is really still in beta. It's been in beta for a long time. We acknowledge that. It's pretty solid, but we need some runway to have TE at an event. There's certain technicians who are more confident in it and more fluent in it, and we're getting better and better at it. But we do need a little bit of notice, and it's not necessarily something that automatically goes into the go bag because it's just not needed everywhere. But yeah, we would love to have opportunities for it to go to the field. Every time it goes to the field and gets used, we get such valuable feedback and we can improve the product.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of this website in terms of the various items that we wanted to mention.
Yeah, I think we've pretty much, given this overview. Again, my hope is that anybody watching the webinar is feeling like, oh, okay, I know where to get all the tools. I feel confident sharing this with friends because this is a good presentation of the work that WA is doing. Whether it's a personal supporter, somebody who's on your support team, whether it's friends at church or people like that, people are often interested in like, well, how do you guys actually do this stuff? And so we want to be able to offer that out for anybody's interest or scrutiny if they'd like to take a look at it. And also, of course, we want our own internal staff to be well versed in what the tools do and things like that. Tech Advance is always available and very, very happy to go on site and support events when they go back to being on site or even remotely. We're looking for opportunities to sort of figure out what to do in this crazy interim time. But it's also helpful for folks who are a part of the WA team just to know what's available when you have those natural conversations with people about your work. Well, how do you guys deal with this? Well, here's how we do it. Here's the tool we have for that. So that's what the site is for.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us today. I know we had a great time, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. We'll be speaking to you sooner than you think, probably in just a couple weeks here, and look for the announcement of what we'll be showcasing next.
Sounds good.
Have a great 4th.
That's right. Thanks so much, Glenn. It's been great to be here with you today.
Bye all.